What's up, it's your boy Zero Brew coming back at you right after doing my interview. It was my fourth interview and been interviewing since April, and hopefully I will land the job after today, but I got my hair in like jailed work mode and not my midlife crisis faux hawk mode. But let's talk about gear for newbie accounts. And the reason why I want to talk about this is my buddy that I've known for years, but he started playing back when I was doing the free-to-play series in January that Hell Hades did. And he is, I guess, it's about 6 months into the game now. And I remember when I was in my first 6 months of the game, how it was very difficult to understand all the different aspects of the game, especially when gearing champions. I know probably back then I was gearing champions incorrectly. He asked me, how should I, I don't even know, like, where do I start? So this is more of a beginner guide to gear, and we'll talk about some advanced stuff at the end, just for you to know and having your knowledge base if you're brand new to this game. Real quick, click the link in my description to get a free Karato as well as Annex, Ugo, and Mausoleum Mage as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Player and Play on the PC and uninstall. Click the link in my description and register with a brand new email. Launch raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champion. Get an awesome start in Raid Shadow Legends with your free Karato Fox Hunter as well as 3 epic champions. Hit the link below and claim them today. I'll see you in the game. Woo! Okay, so I'm going to try to make this as user-friendly as possible, as simple as possible. Feel free to stop and pause throughout the video and rewind if you need to, but I will be kind of going fast here. I do have about 7 points that I wrote down, so let's just get right into it. So when getting a new champion, especially if you're new to the game, you need to understand what your champion needs specifically. Each champion needs a different type of gear sets. We'll talk about doing some niche things like stun sets and provoke sets and hex sets and things like that towards the end of the video. But what do I even mean by that? And I'm going to be honest, in the first 6 months, I didn't know this either. So when you click on each of your champions, it'll say support-based champion or an attack-based champion or a defense-based champion or famously an HP-based champion, right? The way to know for sure exactly what you need in terms of like damage output, if you will, is you can go into each of the skills. Okay, so for an HP-based nuker, you can click each of the skills and also see that damage is based on HP. Now, there are several champions that have damage based on 2 stats. Okay, so the one most famously, and I'll just go to a rare, is Fellhound. His is based on defense and attack. Notice I said defense first. So defense, supposedly this is heavily weighted. Again, we don't see the coding on our end, but according to the big brains that know the code, that the first stat is more heavily weighted than the second stat. So in this example, it says defense and attack. So I've got 3,600 on his defense, 4,000 on his attack. Those get added together to be 7,600, if you will. And again, it might be a little bit higher on the multiplier. In fact, we can look at that here in a minute when you go into the code breakdown. But again, just as it says, if you're an HP-based nuker, your damage is based on your HP. Okay. Also, just note the damage is both based on also your crit rate. Obviously, you want 100% crit rate for nukers, and then your crit damage as well. But like for Narcies in this example, I have 116.5 damage, and so that crit multiplier is going to be going on his base and what the base blah 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 blah. What the base multipliers are. So that is a HP based nuker. Let's take a look at a defense based nuker. So I'll look at, this is an attack based nuker, but Sun Wukong attack based. And again, you can just verify that with his stats. But a champion that needs to land debuffs may want accuracy. So this is what I mean by, there might be a straight up nuker, or you can build a champion to be a nuker, or maybe they are niche and you need to build them with accuracy and some other stats, right? Another one is a defense-based nuker. So one of the ones I've been loving right now is Khan. He is a defense-based nuker. And again, it says it right there in the top corner, but then also defense-based nuker, right? So his damage is going to be based on his defense for his skills. So each champion kind of needs something different. And then finally, just so you know, support champions. And again, it just depends on how you want to build them, right? But like, for example, Lady Mikage is a support champion. She may need attack to do her damage. And then also on mythicals, they have multiple forms. But like in this example, his damage is based on attack and accuracy. Embers famously is HP. And on his second form, I think is HP and accuracy. It is on his second form. That's an example of a mythical and how they're changing and kind of what they need. Okay, hopefully all that makes sense in terms of just trying to understand at the core what your champion needs. Again, I didn't understand, and I might have been putting crazy defense on an attack-based nuker and not putting out the damage I should be putting out. So that's at the baseline what you need to know. Now, the next thing that I will tell you to do is go to hellhades.com. We've got 2 websites to show you, and I just searched for Arbiter right here in the search bar and pulled her up. This is a champion that people can eventually earn in the game, and she is a support-based champion. But this is where it starts getting into the niche skills, right? So she is a turn meter based champion. She does turn meter on both her A2 and her A3. No, I take that back. A3 and A4, sorry. And also she needs accuracy if you want to land her A1 and A2. But because she is a speed lead and things like that, and she does turn meter boost, her number 1 stat is speed, for example. But because she is a support champion and a reviver, he also suggests defense percentage, HP percentage, and then, you know, backup accuracy. But I will tell you, like for me personally on my Arbiter, speed, all out, defense, HP is what it is. And they give you recommended stats where you're going to use them for PvE or PvP. And there's arena blessings and masteries. You can go check that out. Another website, and I use this a lot early on. I don't use this as much anymore, but is OmniLove, if I'm saying it correctly, .net. But they offer, you know, where is this champion good for different ones? And this is, and I have seen other champions that have like kind of different areas. Like this is how you build them if you're using them in arena and campaign and clan boss. This is how you use them if you're using them in these other areas. And then they recommend PvE and PvP type sets actually to use. And there are sets on this one too. Yeah, recommended PvP artifact sets, so speed, divine speed, supersonic, relentless, for example. So they offer that on both of these websites. If you're new to this game, the number 1 tip is stats over sets. Okay, so I'm going to now pull up my Arbiter. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, what do I mean by that? And by the way, this is my number 3 tip. I skipped number 2 tip, but it'll work in this order. So let me find my Arbiter. When you're building out your champions, and so I can look at Lana Thrill here. I have him in a 4-piece protection set and like a 1-piece speed set, right? And you can see that here. So this is what I mean by sets. So you can combine these different sets and get different bonuses and stuff. But at the very beginning of the game, specifically, you are looking for stats, okay? So again, Arbiter, you want her to be super fast. You want her also to have some defense and you want her to have some HP, right? So in this example, I do have a couple sets on her. I do have a speed set and I do have a divine set, and you do get these bonuses. But sometimes you may find 2 different pieces that have really good substats, that those 2 pieces together, while they don't complete a speed set in this example, give you better stats than the, you know, crappier stats on a speed set with this bonus, if that makes sense. So again, you're looking at the gear and you're thinking, oh man, I just need to put 2 speed sets together. I get a bonus 12% speed. Well, in some cases, you may have better pieces of gear. And I'm going to show you that here. Like this, I have a quad roll on this accuracy piece. You see the quad roll there. And then on this one, I had a triple roll, but it was a mythical piece. So really, technically, it's a quad roll as well, because the mythical piece starts off with an extra roll in that stat. Yeah, and you can see that. So 26 here on this quad roll on the base without the glyph, and this is 28. So again, this piece technically had more speed on it with only 3 rolls, where the other one had 4 because it's mythical. And so that's something to consider. Okay. And then the other thing, this is tip number 2, but we'll make it tip 3 here, is no flat stats. There are a few exceptions, but no flat stats on your bottom 3 pieces of gear. What do I mean by that? So I'm looking at this. This is a defense-based glove, an attack-based chest. Again, I don't care for attack on this champion. We talked about that earlier, but I'm doing it for the stats I need for this champion, right? But there are the abilities to have flat stats on these pieces of gear. Also, the top 3 pieces will always have the same stats, meaning a weapon always has attack, a helmet always has HP, and a shield always has defense as the flat stat, okay? And then I just realized I had this piece of gear here that needs to be rolled. So before I roll this, just to close out that point number 3, if you're brand new to the game, anything goes. Also, keep in mind, we do have the free re-gear. As long as you're doing your events every day, you get the free 1-hour re-gear. So it's always better to change out your gear, especially if you're a new account, to just get better stats, right? If you're mid-game, you could refine your sets, meaning start trying to match up speed sets and things like that and try to build out, you know, 4 pieces for a stone skin or 4 pieces for protection, and start kind of building out some of those sets. And then when you're late game, it's just OP combos with the best gear, the best substats, and that gets into some weird late game stuff when it comes to rolling the gear. In fact, I may do it when I start rolling this. I'm like, oh, I didn't land what I rolled. I gotta sell it. But again, brand new, you want to get into those dungeons. So build out what you can, get some really good stats on your starting champions or champions you've got. Like I said, my friend started with the Alice fusion. So he's got Alice on his account. Alice is a great nuker. So get her going with great stats, get it into that dungeon, start farming out dungeon gear. And I will say, like right now we have an event for the dragon. Okay, and with the event for the dragon, I'm going to go to it right here. It is a 3x on speed gear. So what does that mean? So all of these gear sets have a chance to drop, but right now speed is one of the best sets that the dragon can specifically drop. So if you're farming dragon right now, you'll get a 3x chance of getting a speed piece of gear. So hopefully all that makes sense without going too ADHD on you. So the next thing I want to talk about is the H8 optimizer, Hell Hades optimizer. And again, I don't know if there's an ability to do this for mobile because I don't ever run this on mobile. I think they have a mobile extractor, but on the PC, and I get that not everybody can use this tool, but it is a very helpful tool because it helps identify kind of what you need for a champion. So for example, I geared Ragash earlier today, and he is a defense-based nuker. So I selected, hey, pick defense. Now, one of the things I just want to talk about this, and again, I'm not going through all the details of this tool. There are other videos on how to use this tool. One of the things that I do is there are these prioritization items that you can select for your champion. So whenever I gear a champion, I put a code on them. So my 5s are do not touch. These are my best of the best champions, and they get the best gear. And every now and then, especially with the free re-gears that we get now once a day, you will want to improve your stats. You may roll better gear, say when you built your champions 3 or 4 months ago, and you can get their stats even higher. Like I can get my Harbiter faster, for example. And so you constantly want to go back and look at that, but you can use the configuration on this tool. So you can leave this check mark off and it'll search all gear that's not on champions at all. If you have this selected, again, the way I do it is my 5s are my best of the best champions, do not touch. 4s are my next best down and potentially are speed tune champions that I don't want to mess with. 3s are, you might want to touch them. However, they too are bringing something to the table, maybe in terms of like speed tuning or stuff like that. And then 2 or 1 are my kind of like trash champions. Maybe I built them out for faction wars or something like that. But you could potentially say, okay, in this example, we're gonna look at I just totally mess up the optimizer. Well, what's cool is it knows. And of course, I picked the stats. I want 240 speed here. I want 375 accuracy. We'll talk about why specifically on that here in a minute. But as this runs, it's going to go through your best gear, and it's going to know, hey, I want to do the best damage. So I need to be crit capped, meaning 100% crit rate. I need as much crit damage as I can get. Obviously, I'm a defense-based nuker, so I need to prioritize defense, and I don't care about attack. So the tool is really cool. It kind of knows some of that. And this just shows you, like, these are my level 3s and level 1s that have been geared that I could potentially take gear off of them. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. This is more of an advanced end game, late game feature. But if you're brand new to the game, you can use this to help identify, oh, I need to build Alice, for example, and I need to make her be a nuker. So here's Alice. I need her to be a nuker. I want to do damage, and I want 250 speed and 425 accuracy. Go. Okay. And it's going to know how to do that. And again, the other thing that it does, it is smart enough to calculate savage and lethal gear, which that has some built-in ignore defense and merciless too. And it's going to build all that out and say, hey, you know, what can we do? And like right here, this gear, if I'm pulling stuff off of champions that I've built, I can get an extra 24% damage on this champion, for example. Anyway, don't want to go too much deeper into that. So the other thing to note about gear, and I have some pieces here that looks like have not been rolled. Usually I roll my gear that I keep. I must have gotten these from some other place. And here's a perfect example of a defense-based stat that somehow got through. So again, flat stats. You do not want a defense-based piece, flat defense. That needs to be defense percentage. So you would sell that. Let's take a look at these gloves. So crit damage gloves. For the optimizer to really work, you kind of need the gear to kind of be rolled to level 8. And so what I typically do, I'm going to tiptoe into more advanced late game stats. But if you're early in the game, you don't necessarily care about these substats as much. Okay, and we can talk about more advanced features in a different video, but you kind of want speed substat on a speed set, right? And then crit damage percentage, HP percentage, and accuracy, those are all good stats. Again, you can get those flat stats in here, flat attack, flat defense. But even if you land those, you may want to roll this. So what I typically do is I roll these to level 8 and kind of see what you want. And like in this case, I want speed. And then I might say, okay, here's a good starter piece. So now that optimizer we just showed you, this would pick up on the optimizer, this piece of gear, and can kind of calculate it, and it can kind of know kind of what to do or like how much room it has to grow. But I'm going to go ahead and roll this to 12, see if we can land speed, and we did. So now we've gotten a double roll. Can we get a triple roll? No, but we landed accuracy. So I'm actually going to keep this piece. Again, it's a speed set. We've got a double roll into speed. Ideally, you get a triple or a quad roll. Again, this is more advanced late game things, but if you're a brand new account and you happen to have this piece of gear, fantastic. This is great for mid game, even I would say beginning, late game, not necessarily end game, but mid late game piece. And I like to hold on to pieces like this because this is a good filler piece for some of those, like I showed you, level 1s or level 2 pieces, people I want to gear. And with things like Cursed City and the new Faction Wars Hard and other areas of the game, you may want some lower level champions. In our last video, we talked about Soulbound Bellier and stun sets, for example. And then, you know, maybe a piece like this is a good filler piece for a champion like that. But that's really the tip here is just, you know, obviously finding a good piece to roll. And here's one that has flat defense. And I'm going to go ahead and roll that 8 and see what happens. It doesn't have speed on it. But we did land 2 of the better stats here. These are the 2 worst stats on this. HP percentage and accuracy. Maybe we try to get a double roll. If it lands at flat defense or flat HP, I probably would sell this piece. Although it is crit damage gloves on a speed set. For now, I may hold on to this, but where I'm at in the game, I would probably sell this. But again, if you're new to the game, that's a fantastic piece for you to have. So hopefully that makes sense. Roll it and understand what you're looking for when it comes to the stats on that. Now, as you go from early to mid game, there are opportunities to do like speed tuning and things like that. These are more advanced items, and I can just show you my speed tune team because I think I have a key for Clan Boss. So this is one of my first teams, but it was speed tuned for all affinities to work for us. And I'll just go into this. I'm not going to click the battle, but so basically this team is speed tuned for Ultra Nightmare, which is the top level clan boss, but it's specifically designed for Helicath to get the block damage and Underpriest Brogni to clear the fear or the stun, that the clan boss puts out. And then we've got Farrakhan, Annex, and Frozen Banshee as our real damage dealers, but they're all specifically speed tuned. So 248 speed on him, 174 speed on the Brogni, 177 on the Farrakhan, 188 on the Annex, and 185 on the Frozen Banshee. So there are speed tuning guides. MTG Jedi's got one of those. Shout out to him on that. MTG Jedi is an awesome streamer and friend. I didn't say I butchered this because they both have Jedi in their names. Sorry, it's Deadwood Jedi speed tune list. This is the website. I'm glad I looked it up because I'm probably feel like a complete and total idiot for that. But there's different ratio teams, speed teams. There's like an unkillable speed team, and that's probably how I built my original team out of this. And you can see kind of what champions would work for this and kind of what speeds that they need. But that's what speed tuning means, just so you're aware. And they show you the range of the speeds that can go for a specific team. But that's important to know. If you're watching a streamer like MTG Jedi or myself or any of the content creators and they start talking about this stuff, this is what they're talking about. This is a more advanced feature to kind of work your way towards, and eventually you may need something like that. And I did mention that on my teams, or like my 3s and my 4s, like, hey, don't mess with my speed tune team. If I take gear off this champion, it'll mess them completely up. And just in relation to like speed tuning these more advanced concepts, like certain champions just are really good for certain gear sets. So stun set, for example, on Bellower. Why Bellower? This rare champion because he brings attacks all enemies on all 3 of his attacks. So no matter what attack he does, he's hitting a whole wave and has that 18% chance of stunning them. And then if you take this lovely mastery right here, because a stun, it also applies to the gear set, so it goes up 5%, so 23% chance to stun. There are other champions I've built with similar concepts, like I think Mashald. He has a provoke set, so again, you're trying to get the 4-piece chance to provoke. She has, oh yeah, stun set as well. But then there's the hex set. You know what, Kriska's in a hex set. So these are just more specific things. And again, I primarily built these for Hydra teams, right? So champions like like him that attacks all enemies on 2 of his attacks has a chance to land Hex, which Hex in turn adds damage to the team in the team fight. So that's building a specific champion for a specific area of the game. Again, if you're a beginner to the game, you just need to get stats, then you move on to potential sets, and then these more getting to late game. Hey, how can I perfect and do my damage to Hydra and kind of put out extra damage, things like that. The one thing also, I have counter attack on those 3 damage dealers I was talking about on the clan boss, the Farrakhan the Fat, the Annex, and the Frozen Banshee. They're all in counter attack sets. And again, I built these originally before the nerf to Retaliation. It used to be a 4-piece set, 35% chance, and now it's a 2-piece set at 15 apiece. So actually, I'd probably be even better to get 45% chance to put them in a 6-piece set. But again, they're already speed tuned. I'm never going to change them. They do what they need to do. So that's beginner, mid, and then more late in-game concept here is really just building for a specific area of the game. So maybe you want to do, like I said, Hydra or Clan Boss and stuff like that. So a couple things to look at. Don't forget, there are the area bonuses. So you're going to get the affinity bonuses. You get these points from doing regular arena. And as you advance, it took me a couple years to get this fully built out, but you will eventually add all this extra accuracy into the game. And then they have these area bonuses, again, faction wars, they've got Hydra battles and Curse City, for example. And so these get stacked on with the affinity bonuses. And then again, when I first started, they didn't have blessings, but you also have the blessings in the game, right? Which if you have a 5-star blessing, you get well, in this case, extra 90 accuracy and resistance for this blessing or whatever. But, you know, you get the different blessings depending on, you know, what champions that you have. So here's a legendary. Yeah, so 75 for resistance and accuracy here. So you get all these extra stacks of items. So I specifically just rebuilt the Vergash to use that as example today. And I'm really only using Vergash, sadly, in Faction Wars Hard. Potentially, maybe he'll make it in some certain other areas. Again, I built him to do damage, so it looked at lethal, but I also needed a specific accuracy for him. And if you saw that earlier in the video, it was like 375. So when I open up his stats, and you can see we only have the 3-star blessing for him, but he's getting HP, attack, and defense. Those that gets added in here, and the accuracy is at 389. So important thing is Rage Stages tools. So if you go back to Hell Hades and drop down here and go to Rage Stages tools. So I'm just going to go to Faction Wars, and we're going to say Faction Wars Hard, but this works for we'll say, I'm sorry, Shadowkin. That's where Vergash is, Hard, and then we'll say, I don't know, Stage 20. Okay, so this shows you, and it's a little bit confusing, but their resistance is 430, so you need 455 accuracy to be able to land your debuffs, okay? And Vergash is just the perfect person to show for this. 465, 475 on this champion, right? So if I take Vergash, again, Vergash is bringing a stun on his A2 and a decreased defense, so I want him to land his debuffs on the waves, especially the stun, to help control Faction Wars Hard's waves. So don't forget, if you max out your area bonuses in your guild hall thingy, to go ahead and change these stats here. So as you can see, if I change this to Faction Wars Hard, I get all the way up to 469. And again, using the Rage Stages tool, it looks like I actually need 475. Now, 469, 475, that extra 6 probably isn't going to make the biggest difference in the world on this. But theoretically, knowing that, I can go into his gear and say, okay, I need a little bit more accuracy. Let me find a piece that has an accuracy substat. And this just kind of rolls into the gear in general. So accuracy substat, that one already has a 12. But where's all my accuracy? I don't even know. I guess I don't have that much accuracy on wherever this stuff rolled, but you get the point, right? So we built this champion, and this got us where we needed to go, probably using the pinpoint, which gave us an extra 20% accuracy, an extra 40% accuracy, or extra 60 accuracy, just between the perception and the pinpoint. Again, this is kind of that more in-game matching up what you need to do a specific area of the content, right? So I'm saying, hey, I'm doing this champion, Faction Wars Hard, stage 20. I need 475 accuracy. I did the optimizer to say 375, knowing that I could glyph it up and get the area bonuses that are coming with it, right? You know, if I were to get a 5-star soul for this guy, I could change him again and lower that accuracy, because you get an extra 75% accuracy. that would take him up into the 500s, and that's overkill for building out the champion. So hopefully I did not go too ADHD on everyone on this one and came up with a seven kind of simple steps to follow, but kind of what it all means in the grand scheme of things. Because I do know my friend's only been playing for 6 months. He jumps in my streams and we start talking about all these different things, and we're doing late and in-game content, and it's just going right over his head, right? And I think especially early on at the very beginning of your account, you really just need to understand, get the stats, and specifically what a champion needs. Use the guides that we talked about and help yourself there. And I will say the final thought here, your little bonus tip on this. If you haven't heard this before already, speed is king in the game. So the faster you make your champions, the more chances they have to cycle around, right? So this is Noelle. She's a support champion, but she also brings control to the fight. So she needs some accuracy. And so you look at my stats here, 580 accuracy, 317 speed, but I don't need her to do damage because I'm pairing her up in arena to work with other champions to do damage. So I don't have her crit capped. I don't have her with crit damage. So that doesn't matter. Attack doesn't matter. And because I want to keep her alive because she's my reviver, HP, defense, some resistance. Maybe you want to resist other champions stunning you or putting you to sleep or putting fear on you. So you just kind of need to know kind of what you're trying to build. And again, just one final thought on advanced stuff. This is where you get to late game stuff where it's like, hey, I need a 4-piece stone skin and I need a 4-piece relentless set. You kind of stuck with the stats that you're getting, but you know, in this case, 102, you need as much HP as you need. Crit rate and crit damage with the attack on this champion because she is in a base. That's just bonus. So she's just able to do extra little bonus stuff, but I could care less about that. I need speed. And actually, I need to get her at 300 speed, but I'm stuck where I'm at because I'm trying to get a 4-piece stone skin and a 4-piece relentless. So there's only so much of that goes around. And I have multiple champions built with that as well. I think Mikagi is built, yeah, that way. And what's her face? Yeah, White Queen and Korra. And all three of those champions will make their way into arena, which is why I have them kind of built that way. And that's that more advanced late game concept. So hopefully this all helped everyone. Do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and then hang out with us on streams. If you have any questions, hit me up on Discord. Obviously follow these guides, and then of course come to the streams, ask questions, and we can talk about specific champions there if you need help. Much love. Zero Brew out. Bye.